Oh, all right, guys. Welcome to take two. I'm still getting messed with on this channel, if you will, and stuff. Okay. So I'm going to be really quick here. We're going to kind of go a little fast forward here. First, before I get to the small comic book haul, the two records and some VHS tape and stuff, I just want to say that I caught the Infinity Avengers Infinity War trailer. And I saw something in there that really kind of made me feel, kind of warm and fuzzy there. And I don't think it's a spoiler because you can see the trailer, but Thor has ended up with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Thus, we know they are not the original Guardians of the Galaxy, Yondu and Vance Astro and all that Martin X and all those guys, from the future and everything like that. But still, it's the Guardians of the Galaxy. But I had to chuckle because I'm wondering whoever wrote the movie and had the Thor meeting the Guardians of the Galaxy, if they're old school, if they knew about this, right? This is Thor Annual number 6 from 1977, one of the handful of books that one day as I've got a little stack of my stepdad and or uncle's books that kind of hooked me on comics. And I've shown this very much, right? And the reason I'm talking about it is because like this is where Thor meets the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I was watching that and I'm like, no way, no way. Just wanted to point that out. Very cool. So anyway, small comic book haul, a few things from eBay. First thing is I ended up having time during my lunch break to kind of go back around to a comic book shop. And I tried, man. It was actually on a new comic book day, and I looked around, nothing caught my interest. I looked around, and I was sitting there just sort of like, okay, I'm gonna go over here and look in some of these boxes, and I found some cool stuff. But before I get to that, he had promotional stuff that you can get, like the Justice League poster, Unite the League, for the movie. But no big deal. But what was cool is when he gets other things to put around his shop and stuff like that. Either he doesn't want to put them up, he doesn't have room, or maybe he's done with them, or whatever his reasoning is. He doesn't charge for them. He just kind of sticks them over in this little spot if you know where to look, and you can get some free posters. And I scored a free Mister Miracle poster. So I thought that was very cool. Looks like it's the variant covering number one or something. So that was very cool. That's definitely going to go up somewhere. So the comics that I got at his place, first things first, I got an issue of Warrior magazine. I think this is number 16. It says 60 pence on it, or $2 American. But the Marvel Man, who ended up becoming Miracle Man in America, and V for Vendetta, both by Alan Moore, actually started out in Warrior magazine originally, a black and white magazine, and they were told like in smaller chapters, okay, just a few pages each, and this came out, and then they were eventually collected by Eclipse, DC, eventually Marvel, on and on, So, but this has a chapter of V for Vendetta by Alan Moore and David Lloyd, and then a nice little chapter of Marvel Man, which is just a fantastic series. But anyway, he's now Miracle Man. But whoever did this cover, it was kind of cool. I've actually looked at this cover. I can't tell if it's watercolor or anything, but at first it looks very nice. But as you get up to it, you start finding out that he did some cheats in it to give you that feel of perspective and whatnot. But the head's very big, the arms are very tiny and short, and the hands are out there. Whatever he had to do. But my thing is that who does that look like? Is that Paul Newman? Or am I thinking another old school actor? Man, that looks like Paul Newman to me, and I could be wrong because that doesn't. Yeah. So if anybody knows, let me know. Very cool book. I highly recommend the Alan Moore issues of Miracle Man if you can have time to check them out. Then the other things I just got 3 issues of this 13 issue maxi series from the 80s. It's a new format, June of '88. So yeah, I guess this is after. Yeah, but anyway, you could just get this at the direct market back in the day, right? And this is based on a team. This is called an offshoot of the Legion of Superheroes, the Wanderers, 13 issues. The Wanderers were another superhero team in the future of the Legion of Superheroes that when they met, they were affected by radiation and they had to fight the Legion. This is Silver Age, borderline Bronze Age. And they were created by Jim Shooter, if I'm remembering right, right? So this is a Jim Shooter creation, right? The ties with Legion and the Marvel Universe cracked me up, like with Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was almost a member of the Wanderers and or the Legion. It kind of goes back and forth with the lore, by Dave Cockrum created a lot of those characters. But anyway, But this series is infamous, right? And I was looking around, and I'm like, I got these pretty cheap. Here's number 2, and here's issue 3. But the story, in the comic book, the comic book collectors back in the day and stuff, this book was a little bit infamous coming out of the '80s and going into the '90s, and people remember it. At least they remember hearing about it, in my opinion. But anyway, but around issue 12, there's the cover of the book has one of the wanderers kind of like, looks like he's petting and hugging a little raptor. It's real sweet and stuff. But in the book, what happened was is for some reason this raptor like dinosaur ended to be impregnated. So the hero who can shapeshift, who's on the cover hugging the raptor and stuff, is like, I'll take care of it. And he shapeshifts into a dinosaur, and he goes over and he makes sweet love to the dinosaur, knocks it up. He's like, okay, guys, let's go. And they get on the ship and they fly away. So I was like, when I first heard that, I was like, nah, they wouldn't let that happen. DC wouldn't let that happen. No way, no way. That's no. Turns out it's true. So I found a couple issues of it. I'm like, it's time to get this. Now, here's what's funny about this. These characters do not look like anything like the originals when they came out in their first appearance and stuff. Basically, what happened, they came up with a cool way to redesign these characters, and Steve Dillon, who ended up being the penciler and stuff on Preacher for so many years. I think he was brought in to redesign these characters. They didn't go with those redesigns. They brought in this other guy who actually did the series. But these are clones of the originals. Okay, the original Wanderers were murdered, and the whole hook of the book is that they were brought back to find their murderer who killed us and stuff, right? So they came back with, I think their powers were a little different or jacked up or something, and they look completely different, right? But what's ironic about this is that if you're nostalgic for the '80s, or if you want to go back and see what the real '80s are and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, that feeling if you were really there, you might as well look at these redesigns and stuff, man, because with the pastel colors and the haircuts, and this screams '80s. I can smell Liz Claiborne perfume and apple scented hairspray, and the smell of jelly shoes that you wore too long. This makes me feel like I'm walking into my middle school homeroom. When I see this stuff. Look at that. They even worked in a mullet on a guy. Okay. And the guy with the Colossus like fins that are, you know, on steroids and stuff, that's the shapeshifter. Yeah. So, yeah, if you want to feel the '80s, that's it. And I've talked too long about them because I need to read it. Okay. So then I get on eBay, and I'm not going to say who the seller is because when these two trades came in, when these trades came in, when I went to go get them, they were in a box, and it was an Amazon box, right? No big deal. I recycle boxes, but this thing is 10 times too big for these trades to be in. And I pull the tape on, and I open it up, and there's bubble wrap. And I open up the bubble wrap, and there's the freaking books that's in the box under another layer of bubble wrap. They were bouncing back and forth, and yes, they got damaged. One did at least, man. I've been working it out. Got dog-eared, and it's a little discolored on the top, which he didn't put in the description. But for what I got, I now have a complete the trade paperback set of the Invisibles. I can finish reading the story finally. This is volume 4 or volume 5 and 7. So this one is Counting to None. Phil Jimenez has come in to do this. This is why the artwork is fantastic in it. And I've thought about how can I hurry up and tell you about the Invisibles and not go on and on about it. But basically, Grant Morrison claims to have taken drugs and sat down at the keyboard, and it's about aliens, conspiracy, gods, religion, Zen, just everything and anything under a big conspiracy of an alien invasion. Supposedly, I think this is, hopefully, if I remember right, I haven't read this one, but John Lennon pops up, and it turns out he's the god of rock or something like that, and the aliens have this alphabet that they can add to ours. Like, we don't just have 26 letters, but the more you hear about the secret letters of the alphabet and try to use them or hear somebody use them, you actually get sick from it. So, yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff in here. Time travel and just all kinds of stuff, magic, urban magic, street magic, just anything and everything that came into his head. So that's Counting to None. That's Counting to None, Volume 5. And then this is the last volume. The Invisible Kingdom, and this was told from issue 12 to issue 1. They counted backwards with this one, so this is all the covers on there. I've read nothing from this. I have 3 or 4 issues, that I floating around here and stuff, but now I have all of them, so I'll be reading those. And I've learned not to recommend Grant Morrison to people unless they like Grant Morrison. That's how I feel about it. Oh. Wrong hole. Not going to say it too easy. All right, so then I have some VHS tapes here, man. All right, and I had a chance to buy this for like $7, $8 at Walmart on DVD. I just didn't want it, but I found it sealed and for 50 cents on VHS, and I'm telling you, this is Psycho. I love Alfred Hitchcock movies. Rear Window is one of my favorite movies of all time. I put it in my top 5. But anyway, Psycho, I'm telling you, man, there is something that adds to the creepiness of taking a horror movie and putting it in that VCR and hearing that whir and seeing that graininess, and stuff like that. That just, horror movies are just so much better on VHS. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care. Silver Bullet, based on a little novelette by Stephen King, A Cycle of the Werewolf. But this is Corey Haim, Gary Busey, and a werewolf. And I think they're in a trailer park. And, so, little kid fights a werewolf. Nobody believes him. Beetlejuice, which I don't think I'll get to keep this. I think this is going to my girlfriend. What can I say about Beetlejuice that you should know who Beetlejuice is? And then Phantom, the ghost who walks. Who is it? Billy Zane? Billy Zane in this, right? I thought this was a great adaptation. I thought this was a solid movie because if you read the Phantom in the Sunday Funnies, it's pretty much almost a straight adaptation. They put him in New York. He's in the jungle with the ghost who walks. So the particular cover on this cover here, and what he's doing is he's throwing a punch because he has his skull ring. And he would punch you so hard it would leave the impression of the skull on you, so you would be warned. You'd be marked by the Phantom by other people. So it'll be interesting to watch this. I think this, again, like a lot of cool movies, I think this flopped, but he even had his horse and his dog, and I'm sitting here, his wolf, white dog, white wolf. Oh my God, I'm going blank, and I'm ashamed, but it had everything in it. I just thought it was just fantastic. And then we'll save that one for last. And then I have this. This is by Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg from 1978. I believe these are the guys that, didn't they bring us like Back to the Future? But this is a little nostalgia comedy, if you will, that zaniness. This is, the time of Animal House where they kind of pushed it, but this is no Animal House, believe me. But anyway, it's 4 girls and this nerdy guy, and there are various stories going on with these people. Where they're trying to get in to see the Beatles the night they're debuting on the Ed Sullivan Show. So there's Beatlemania running around the streets, and this is sort of their nostalgia take on remembering Beatlemania, the night that they debuted on the Ed Sullivan Show. And it has that nerdy guy. I want to say his name is Bobby. I don't know. But whoever this actor is, he was in Grease, and he was in 1941, and now he's in I Want to Hold Your Hand. So I always thought he was funny. What else do we have here? And then I got this. I like Brian De Palma movies, and I've never seen this. This is called Body Double from 1984. But basically, it's a murder mystery. So I'm expecting some 80s decadence and cheese in it and stuff. So it'll be interesting to watch that. But I love Brian De Palma movies. And I'm sitting here thinking, Brian De Palma, if I remember right, did a movie that I loved when I was a kid with John Travolta called Blowout. It was like one of John Travolta's last great movies coming in the 80s. And I just realized that in I Want to Hold Your Hand, this has Nancy Allen in it, who was in Blowout, and she was also RoboCop's partner in the movie. That's where Nancy Allen is, more famous for. I love how all this stuff crisscrosses. And last but not least, I have Warlock. Now, you talk about King of the B movies in the 80s and stuff, right? This thing, people who... I'm going by memory here. I don't know if this was nationwide. I don't want to get silly. But anyway, this was impossible to rent. Everybody wanted it. Everybody loved it. Everybody talked about it. It's a B movie, and it's Julius Sands as, the Warlock. He comes from 1691, and he comes to the future, and man, he's out to destroy the world. But what's amazing is that, like, this thing, I remember this thing got evil when he would cast some spells. I mean, it felt like some freaking brimstone and fire. You were just sort of like, oh, it's kind of gross, But he comes from the past to destroy the future. But yeah, it's kind of, I have not seen this since like 1989, 1990, so it'll be interesting to watch. And two records, real quick. Um, love Blondie, love Talking Head, love all those bands that came out of CBGBs before I found out they came from CBGBs. But I think this makes my fourth or fifth Blondie album. Auto American. Yeah, this is the one with Tide is High on it and Rapture. Kind of more the radio hits, I guess. But I'll be able to. I've never really listened to this whole album. And then I got this for $2. Barbarella, the soundtrack. That's yeah. So I mean, that is not Jane Fonda on the cover, man. But I can't wait to listen to this, man. I have Barbarella on DVD, and it's based on a French comic back in the day, and there's just so much '60s campiness and stuff. And I don't know if I'll be able to sit through all this like pseudo jazz pop music they had on there. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. $2, so go say no. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Later.